Welcome back to Grown Folk Talk with Patrice, Loree, and Tina. We are talking today about relationships over 50. So, Tina, you were talking about how we basically need to keep our partners interested. You used the term we need to arouse their interest, and it's very important. Even in our 50s and 60s, we still have to make sure that we are taking care of what we have to take care of. So we talked about, back then, what mattered, the pretty boy, the afro and all of that. And as afro, I'm giving away my age because you all are looking at me, the afros. But we did, right? And like you said, playing football and stuff. And then it's not that these things don't matter, but I think for me, I became more attracted to the person's behavior. Mm-hmm. Now, I remember when I met my husband, he was actually my supervisor. That's where we met. He was one of my supervisors. And I wasn't paying him any mind. And I had just gotten out of a relationship and I was not interested in anybody or anything. And he would come and ask me out. And I was like, you're not my type. He's 5'9", I'm 5'4". Told him he's too short, all of that type. He was not my type because I wasn't ready for a relationship. And at that point, I was in my 30s, I guess. Yeah, 30s. And so I thought I knew what I wanted, and I just wasn't interested at the time. And then the more he came back and asked me out, he wasn't stalking me. He was just politely persistent in asking me out. And then he stopped asking, and I got a little nervous. I said, oh, wait a minute. Wait, is he asking somebody else out, right? Because I realized at that point I didn't like him. I liked the person. I liked how he behaved. I liked how he treated me. Mm-hmm. And then so I say, oh yeah, I'll go with you. Like, okay, wait, because I don't want to miss out. And it was one of the greatest decisions I ever made. But how important is it to you ladies, where we are now in this stage of life? If there's the attraction and because sometimes there's a battle as we're aging, keeping ourselves looking good, doing the things that we were doing back then and where we are now. So life changes. Life has changed over the years. So you're 23 years married. I'm 24. Monday coming will be my 24th anniversary. Thank you very much. And you're newlywed. Yes. Almost 7 years.
December 13th.
December 13th. Mm-hmm. Okay. So talk to me about that. Like what?
So when we talked about arousal, it's about arousing each other. Right?
Yes.
And so one of the things I often say, we look at and say arousal. Now to man, because I know I work with a lot of men as well, arousal is intimacy, physical intimacy.
Yes, not right? Even just intimacy,
for us,
sex.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then for women, most times it's emotional connection, right? And so we have to know the difference in what we need. We have to know the difference in what we need. And you were talking about something that you experienced when you was with your husband in your 30s. I met my husband in my 20s. Mm-hmm. So I tell people I grew up with him. I grew up from the childish stage and looking for attention and all those things. But what I will say, the arousal part, when we talk about piquing each other's interest and keeping each other's interest, is some of the things that we did then, we have to do now, right? Some of the things I do now, people say, well, Tina, how many different hairstyles you're going to have? Well, I want to be a new wife every time I show up. So today, I think I look some sort of fine, right? And then tomorrow, you might see me with a little flip. Next day, I might buy a wig or a weave. My husband does not like them. So I knew he's watching. He does not like that, nor makeup. So I got it. And I don't need either. But I desire to do it sometimes.
Yes.
So I say all that to say, and likewise him. He also has to do things to arouse me, to pique my attention. So some of the things he knows I like, he does. And likewise, we're not going to mention them
because
but
behavior,
it's just knowing what each other needs, right? So when we say arousal, it's just arousing those feelings, those emotions, those connections that keep us going.
Right. Yeah.
And whatever that may be, it may differ for all of us.
Of course.
But we have to keep that connection. And over 50, it's very important because like you said, we talked about it early on break. You can look down and say, oh my goodness, that person's fine. I know a lot of people now who have been divorced in their 50s because hubby wants something young or a star wants to get her groove back. Right? So there are various things that goes on in marriages and relationships over 50. We just have to know what works best for us.
And we have to have ongoing conversations.
Right.
So I had a conversation with a guy. I used to work with him years ago. And this is when I was doing a different show. And he said, oh, Patrice, I listened to you and I have a question. My wife is not really interested in sex anymore. And it could be she's going through menopause. It could be a whole lot of things. So don't I have the right to go out and have sex with other women? I said, sure you do.
Wow.
But not while you're with her. You can go and have sex with whoever you want. I said, but why would you do that to your wife if she is no longer interested? First of all, find out why. Mm-hmm. It could be you. And I wanted to say to him, I can see why. I'm just saying, right? Because he wasn't keeping himself clean.
Yes.
He looked like he hadn't had a bath in a couple of days.
Yes. Okay.
Nails weren't kept properly. Hair was, so he wasn't looking attractive. Mm-hmm. And so, but he feels that because his wife is not interested in sex, because men can have sex like that, don't matter. Because his wife is not interested in having sex, don't I have the right, and asking me, of all people, don't I have the right to go and have sex with other women? Bye. Stop being childish.
So that shows
right?
They have a disconnect
It's
altogether.
a serious
For him to be
disconnect.
asking you that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what men fail to recognize is that intimacy or even sex starts way before our bodies meet.
Absolutely.
Right?
Way before the bedroom or the kitchen table or wherever.
So
saying,
that starts with communication, being interested in me.
Yes.
Arousing.
Yes.
Arousing is not about the sexual arousal, but it's about also mainly the mental arousal.
Exactly.
Right? And so if you are not interacting with me, that is piquing my interest. If you're saying stuff that is negative to me, there is no way
how we shutting that off?
That I'm going to say, okay, let's get it on.
Right. Because she said, let's get it on. How do we?
Yeah.
How do we? If you are mentally abusive, physically abusive, emotionally, or whatever it is, and then we can't compartmentalize that. We can't say, well, let's put that here. Maybe somebody can. Some people can't. I can't.
No. But then we have to think too. We talked about earlier how women, if man can have sex at the drop of a dime, that's untrue. Because men also struggle with the various things we do. Sometimes we're stressed out and we're not that interested.
Right.
Sometimes we could be worrying about the things on our job, with our children, with our family, health matters, emotional, mental health. Anything could be going on with us, and we might not get aroused. It has absolutely nothing to do with our partner. And likewise, our partner, they also, struggle with the same areas that we do. They just present it differently.
Oh, because I was going to say,
so if you're not having that communication with the person,
that's it.
No,
that's it.
Then there's that disconnect, right?
That's right.
So that is important that you talk to me about what's going on.
Yes.
Okay, like Tina said earlier, her husband said, okay, you're quiet, what's going on? That invites her to respond appropriately.
Absolutely.
Because he's showing interest. If I'm upset and you're not responding to me, or you don't even recognize that I'm upset.
That I'm upset to begin with. Right. Then what's missing?
We're not in tune.
Right.
Or you don't have any desire to be interested in what my needs are, just your needs.
Oh, there you go.
Exactly. And then that happens too. But then let's talk about the positives of the over 50 relationships, the pros. Because we talked a lot about some of the cons, right? So when you think about some of the pros, that's why it's so important to connect. Because that's what getting older, we're growing, right? And so a lot of times we want to look at this connections. What do we have in common? There's a lot of people now, we say, if we haven't been together already for years, there's who are dating. I know a lot of people who's out there dating. Right. And they're like, Tina, this is just like such a foreign field because it's different from when it's in our 20s and 30s.
That's
longer, nowadays, everybody's quick to want to jump in and get married.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And there are one or the other partner that's not interested in marriage for the various reasons. So one of the things I often say, and what I often feel, is that in our 50s, what got to drive, what got to focus on, what been through all that drama, what been through all the emotional chaos, what been through we know what we like in the bedroom, we know what we like at the kitchen table, we know what we don't like, all those things. So when we show up over 50, we need to make sure somebody shows up correct.
Yes.
We need to make sure somebody shows up. What, do you like dinner all the time? Do you like flowers? Whatever, I'm not a flower girl, but whatever people like, whatever your desire is, your partners to do it. We talked about something no break about you and your husband. He wanted you. So he got you.
Right.
That's just it, right?
Yeah.
And so
he knew what he wanted
and he got you.
And he knew how to present himself to
in spite of what she thought, he had other intentions. And so he knew to work on her. He said, okay, well, I see what she's doing, but guess what? I'm looking at you, and this is what I want. So now
and
it's
we
the apple
will shy away from relationships that could look promising because, for me, we're afraid that they may be sabotaged or whatever the case is. So that's where I was with my husband at the time. And so because we've learned so many lessons, right? Yeah. And it breaks my heart when I meet women who are this age, our ages, and still struggling with infidelity and their voice and being valued and validated by their partners, and they still stay. They still stay and hoping that things will get better. And for me, I feel like when a person's at that stage, they're already set in their ways, and it is what it is. So we have to make a decision to say what matters more to me, and then what am I going after? You know what I mean?
And maintaining that. So Tina spoke about how my husband pursued me, right?
Yes.
But once you have the person, it's maintained that pursuit. It's not saying, oh, I don't got him now.
Or got her now. Right. Yes,
I
that's
can now
right.
sit off and not do anything.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
This is where the work really starts.
Right. Yeah.
Because we're now shedding off the pursuit armor.
That's right.
Because that was a facade.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And so getting down to the real person.
Yes. And I always say, I'm sorry to cut you off, Louis. I always say, once all the lashes and the makeup and all of that comes off,
comes off.
Right. Then we're still working with who we are at our core. Right.
Exactly. And we talked about that. Makeup. We just talked about the lashes and the makeup. Sometimes I think, I mean, my personal opinion is that I think a lot of times in our 50s, we think that this is what men looking for. We think that if we show up from head to toe looking completely designed or completely costumed, that's who they want.
Right.
Which in actual fact, really what they want to do is connect with, they want to connect.
Yes.
Who can we connect?
I mean, we can still look cute. We can still do the things that we look good at. So as we, in our 20s, I don't know about you lot, but I'm not looking like I looked in my 20s or my 30s. No, hard as it is to believe. I know. I am not. So we age, we gain weight, some of us. We battle a whole lot of things, right? Things change. And so then, if we have the connection that we deserve and desire, our partners, we take them along with us. And so, and I think that when our men or our partners, because the same could be true with men with their women, when the love is forged, when we have nurtured our relationships to the point that we love each other, we like each other, then okay, cool. You don't look like you did on our wedding day. You don't look like, nor do I want to. But we are okay. We're good. We're aging together.
For me, it's the lessons that have been learned together over the years, right? The memories that have been held over the years together, and knowing that my partner wants what's best for me.
Yes.
And will do whatever it takes for us to work.
That's right.
Because if I'm putting in the effort for whatever it takes for us to work, and this is our sacred space.
Yes.
Nobody can step in this.
They're not supposed to.
No one can step in this. And if my partner is doing the exact same thing, nobody can step into this.
That's right. We are on one accord.
Yes.
Right. We are on one accord.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be. So as we get older, things are going to happen. You know, I did a show about menopause and all this stuff that goes with that. But
that's for men too, you know.
Yes,
we talk about how women go through menopause. I'm sorry. Men go through menopause. I don't know what it's called, but maybe it's menopause.
Yeah, maybe.
But they also go through a transition and a change and a stage in their life.
That's right.
Well,
that's right. Yes.
So let's be honest, it's not just women that go through this phase.
Right. Yes. And it's not. But if you listen to some people, you would think that that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And we're changing together. And I think we may be more open to accepting the changes in our partners. Not that they're not, don't get me wrong. But for me, I feel like, you know, this is the man I married, this is the man I love, and whatever the changes are, as long as we're still respecting and loving each other and all of that, then I'm in it for whatever's happening, right?
Yeah.
We're in it.
In it for the long run.
Yes.
Because we don't know what's going to happen to them or to us.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so my expectation, if something happens to me where I'm now going to be in a wheelchair, I'm expecting my husband to not
be pushing you in the wheelchair. Yes. That's what we signed up for.
And dress me decent.
That's what. Have you looking cute as you do out of a wheelchair. Yes. I agree.
Because I'm going to do the same for him.
Yes, that's right.
I was talking to a friend of ours that my husband and I have in common last night. And so my friend says, you always look good. And let me say something. Your husband's been looking good too. You know?
Of course he is. Yes.
So we are a
right.
reflection of each
other. Right. And that's what we should be.
That is, you took the word right out of my mouth. That is so important. It's not one day my husband and I come to him and he'll say to me, guess what? Says, well, I don't know what she's doing. Or the other day we're still reading and they said, man, what's happening? He's like her. You know, I said exactly what reflection.
Yes, that's right.
And I think that's so important. You know, there are so many people that are wasting time. I say wasting time in their relationships.
Oh, yeah.
They're focused on all the wrong things. Who he's looking at, who he's talking to. Oh my goodness, he'll stare at her. I stare at people. We all. What is wrong with looking at and admiring somebody
else? If my
else?
husband stops looking at women, then I'm going to be a little concerned. I'm not saying being disrespectful about it, but I expect that.
Exactly. Yes. It's healthy to be able to have that conversation about, my goodness, she looks foul. He looks
very
foul.
attractive.
Right, that's the part. Right, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the drilling.
Right, the lost in that.
Right.
You know, and Tina spoke to the person saying, "Oh, my husband was." Well, that comes with issues. That comes with baggage behind it. That's a story behind it. So there is a lack of trust. There is a lack of
it's unfinished business.
Faithfulness.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
And where they have not
Unfinished
fixed it. They haven't done the work that this is a problem, so let's work on this. It's just ongoing, right?
And one of the things I find of us women, we talk about men and women, but what I can say about a lot of us women, that when we feel like our relationships are going haywire, we've spent so much time trying to change him that we forget that it starts with us. And so while the relationship looks like it's not what we want it to be, and what the mistrust and the lack of communication and the lack of intimacy and all those things, we are banging our heads. I don't, but a lot of women, maybe not of us, but a lot of women are banging their hands up against the wall to figure out how can we, what can he, how can he, how can I make him love me? How can I make him do all the things instead of looking at ourselves and say, how can I better develop who I am?
Yes, right.
And then once you better develop who you are, you now become more attractive to him.
Yes. Because we should always be wanting to work on ourselves, right? Not to say that it's always us, but let's work on us and figure out what the rest is.
Absolutely.
And be open to him saying, well, I have a problem with this, or I have an issue with that, or you know what I mean?
For sure. For me, it's, I told my husband, when you met me, I was happy. So if I'm unhappy, guess whose fault it is? Because I was happy before you came.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All
and
right.
so I'm very honest when I'm not happy.
Yes.
I can say, listen, I'm not happy. Let's talk about what's
absolutely. That's
because
it. That's
marriage,
communication,
relationships are work.
Yes,
a lot of work.
And we'll talk about that. We're going to take a break because we'll talk about the work that is involved in keeping a marriage thriving and keeping communication. Communication is key, and that's what we need to talk about. So we'll do that when we come back. I'm enjoying my time with you ladies, Tina and Loree. We'll be right back with some more grown folk talk. I think it's about to get a little more grown. Be right back.